It's a little bit later than I usually get to this, but welcome to the podcast. And it is time to go through this weekend's UFC Fight Night card. This one coming to us live from Nashville, Tennessee, which means that it is actually a reasonably solid card, unlike the Apex cards and the Vegas cards that we regularly get. You have two fights with borderline title implications, actually. Like not number one contender fights, but borderline title implications. You've got Jacoby versus Kennedy Njoku, which has rankings on the line. I do believe. Is Kennedy ranked? UFC rankings, please. He's just outside the top 15 on Tapology, which usually means that he is in the top 15. No! Dustin Jacoby is, though. Interesting. Really, we live in a world where Alonzo Menifield and Khalil Roundtree are in the rankings, and Njoku is not. Also, Dominic Reyes is, which is comical. Reyes has been a broken man for a long time. So we got that, and on top of that, you've also got a pretty good fight between Gavin Tucker and Diego Lopez, which we're looking forward to. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Ludovic Klein's intriguing. Raoni Barcelos and Kyler Phillips is a fight of two guys that are seemingly a little bit on the downswing in terms of like excitement and where they're going and whatever. Barcelos, in particular, being 35 or 36 years old and at bantamweight. But that's a fun fight. Jeremiah Wells, Carlston Harris has some appeal. Billy Quarantillo, David Jackson, looking forward to it. Jake Hadley versus Cody Durden. That could be a big fight. And there is a fair amount of hype on Asu Albamayev. I have not pulled up best fight odds for this particular card, which disappoints me. Because it looks like it has a very incomplete list. Which means I'm going to have to find something here. Just give me a moment, please. Where would I be able to find it? I would be able to find it probably here. Search up Gavin Tucker. Future UFC event. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there we are. I don't know. It's a weird one where they got like the card split in two. But I think I've got all the fights here. We'll find out. We will find out. This fight card has lost some intriguing stuff. For example, Kyler Phillips and Saeed Nurmagomedov. That was an interesting fight. Although, to be honest, I think Barcelos is a very, very good replacement. Tajer Ilumbekov versus Jake Hadley. I'd say Durden's a really good replacement there. So, like, props to the matchmakers. We lost Oven St. Preux versus Zion Kudalaba. Was I interested in that fight? I don't even know anymore. Ian Kudalaba is like a sideshow fun. But, hey, Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, of course, getting falling apart, and we are getting the matchup with in the main event with Rob Font, and then of course Sean Woodson, who was cursed. He was booked against Steve Garcia, Jesse Butler, Marin Santos. All of them fell apart, and now he is fighting Dennis Bazucha, which is a cool name, but is a fighter that a little bit of a spoiler. I don't necessarily think is really ready for the UFC. PFL, or what? Not PFL. One also has an offering coming up. Chingiz Alisov in the main event. I'm not going to break it down. I don't break down kickboxing bouts, but that is going to be a thing to see. Jared Brooks versus Mikey Musumeci in a grappling match. That's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Again, not breaking it down, but it's pretty cool. John Lineker is on the card. Always exciting. There's some other like just excellent kickboxing. Again, watch the card. I don't have a lot to say about the MMA because like the most interesting MMA fight on the card is like Marcos Buchecha versus Rugrug, which is not actually especially interesting. Like I don't think Rugrug is actually particularly good. That's what it comes down to. I think he has like the physical talent to be good, but like realistically, he's just gonna be kind of one's freak show attraction for probably his entire career. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't get me. It doesn't get me super interested. Buchecha probably going to win that fight. So if you want to pick on that card, Buchecha to submit Rugrug. at some point. Because Buchecha is really an amazing athlete as well as an amazing BJJ practitioner. Like, there's nothing stopping him from being the best heavyweight in like a couple years' time. Like, obviously, he's still very, very early in his MMA career, but like, he'll get there, is my personal opinion. He's kind of like a Jacare Souza sort of deal, only younger. Alrighty, let's get into this. 140-pound catchweight fight, Cory Sandhagen versus Rob Font. I always find it a little bit weird that Sandhagen has supposedly just a 70-inch reach. Like, I don't get it. Like, dude's got long arms. Dude's got long legs. There's no way that he has a lower reach than height. Like, that's a weird structure for a men's fighter. These are both guys that are usually very, very comfortable on the outside. Font is a very, very good jabber. He's a stabber. He's, also a guy who is used to having a reach advantage because he's got 71 and a half inches, 5'8". Like, he is a tall bantamweight. He's just fighting a guy who is a bantamweight who's almost 6 feet tall. And he hasn't looked all that great. Like, he did beat Adrian Yanez. He turned back the clock a little bit there. But, like, the durability of Font has clearly been fading a little bit. Sandhagen is not the biggest hitter in the world. And that is why I don't think, like, I'm not predicting, like, first round KO, second round KO, or whatever. But what he is a guy who is way better at following up, at least the Marlon Chito Vera, when you have someone hurt. And I do think that at some point he is going to get him hurt. He's going to TKO. Sandhagen is a phenomenal creative striker. He pushes a pace really, really hard. He's tall, like I said. He's become very good at utilizing wrestling to break up the exchanges, to open doors for himself by shooting for takedowns that I honestly don't believe he has any real intention of actually completing. Not just because he seems completely not put off by the fact that he is not, and then he'll break it, and then he'll throw something off the separation. He's a very smart fighter who happens to also be a giant for the weight class. It's like it works together really, really well. He's putting together things incredibly well. He's one of my favorite fighters in division. That's not to say Font doesn't have anything for him. Like I said, Font, really good jabber. Works into combinations pretty well. He's defensively fairly solid. He is hard to take down himself. He has an offensive wrestling game of his own, which has been a weakness to Sandhagen's in the past. I mean, I will never get that Aljamain Sterling fight out of my head where Sterling just like instantly takes him down, instantly backpacks him, instantly rear naked chokes him. And I mean, granted, that is Aljamain Sterling. Like, he's phenomenal. But like, it still definitely showed up a certain shortcomings of Sandhagen that the UFC has just avoided him having to deal with. Like, it's been a long time since he fought somebody who is a particularly good wrestler. Like, it's basically TJ Dillashaw. And let's be honest, Dillashaw post-suspension for EPO, and this is not even about, like, the EPO suspension or whatever. This is just about, like, Dillashaw got old and decrepit and broken down. And while I did believe Sandhagen won that fight, that was a fight where, like, again, it showed that the ability to resist an offensive, persistent wrestling threat is not great from Sandhagen. Font can do that. He can do a little bit of that, but that is not his A game. He is predominantly a guy who is going to try to jab with a taller man and not really ask a ton of questions to Sandhagen. And I think the two ways to beat Sandhagen are to just ask so many questions he can't possibly answer them all, or to just completely dominate him in a phase of the fight. And I don't really think Font can do either at this point in time. There was a point in time where, like, Font would have, probably taken him to school. But it's not 2023. So, yeah, Sandhagen by TKO. Betting lines. Sandhagen is a fairly large favorite. I see him at minus 330 to minus 370 right now on Best Fight Odds. Rob Font is a plus 250 to plus 265 underdog. So, not a surprise. It's a late notice replacement. It's Sandhagen, who is a legitimate title contender, and I think probably would have a compelling case for the shot at the title, if not for the fact that he did get completely washed by the champ, Aljamain Sterling. So he's probably a big fan of Sean O'Malley right now. Because if O'Malley wins, that opens... Well, okay, no, but if O'Malley wins, it opens the door for Merab Dvalishvili to get a title shot. So even then, not. But it does put him a noticeable step closer to the crown, I guess, if O'Malley has the belt, so to speak. Jessica Josh versus Tatiana Suarez. This is a late notice replacement fight because it was going to be Suarez versus Verna Jandiroba. This is I'm not sure if I've ever really had this kind of fight because these are two ladies, who I was incredibly convinced of at various points. And to a degree, I still am. Andrade, I was like, you know what? Andrade is the best fighter outside of basically the champions. And with Suarez, it's like she is a future champion. And then Suarez had injuries. Andrade seems to have hit a rough patch where she's kind of falling down. The loss to Erin Blanchfield was fine, but the loss to Zhang Yan was really concerning. Sorry, I'm a little stuffy. So I don't know, and she hasn't looked great in late notice replacement fights. But with Suarez, it's like, okay, you came back from 3-4 years on the shelf. You beat Montana De La Rosa. You looked sort of like the same fighter as before, but like, what does that tell me? Because Montana De La Rosa is a fighter who is notably without physicality. Like that is her limitation. She is a gritty, determined, volume, hardworking fighter. But she's not athletic. So that kind of win, I don't know how much it tells me because there's a world of difference between Montana De La Rosa's physicality and Jessica Josh's physicality. I do think I still, at the end of the day, have to go with Suarez. I have questions. I have concerns about anyone who's coming off of a layoff as long as she was coming off of and the injuries that she had. But she did come back. She looked pretty okay. Like there was a little bit of ring rust. There was some things that were, that probably need to be ironed out, but probably will just by, cage time. She is a phenomenal wrestler for the women's divisions. She is a incredibly powerful lady. Is she as powerful as Andrade? Probably not, but she's better technically. Like Andrade's grappling and particularly Andrade's wrestling has always been very much the woman handle in this case. Variety, the bully. I can do this because I'm super strong as opposed to having great technique. Whereas Suarez, it's I'm super strong and I have pretty good technique. And that should triumph. She's also the taller fighter, 4 inches in height, 4 inches in reach. She's got a developing striking game. She hits very, very hard. Like I said, Andrade does not seem to have her trademark iron chin anymore, which is a problem because she's never been terribly defensively responsible. And yeah, I do have to go with Suarez. I do have to go with her by TKO. I do have to go with her getting takedowns and getting dominant positions and landing the ground and pound and doing the thing and being just like, perfectly fine on the feet. But I don't know. I'm probably never going to be surprised if Jessica Andrade just comes out and like just pops somebody or even just grabs like a super powerful guillotine or something. Like there are ways for her to win this fight. But the betting odds do suggest that the public is even more sold on Suarez being still Suarez than I am. -350 to -400. And Andrade is as high as a +300 underdog. +260 at the low side. That's tempting to bet on. And to be clear, like that's tempting to bet on against like anybody with Jessica Andrade because she has that kind of physical ability in a nutshell. The line is apparently getting closer. Hang on. Let me check this, please. Because I'm looking at the line movement. Yeah, it's moving a little bit. But it is still further than it was when it opened at -400 for Suarez. Alrighty. Dustin Jacoby versus Kenny Njoku. Interesting fight. Kennedy is winning me over. He's doing some things. He's looking really good. I still don't think he's very good. but he is learning the right things and exhibiting the right skills improvements. He looks more comfortable at range. He looks more capable of entering the clinch and utilizing his physicality and the fact that he has a 6'5" frame and doing his thing. He is very athletic. He is what the 205 division tends to thrive on, which is like good athletes who aren't very technical. And like Jacoby is the other end of that spectrum. Not super athletic, like, good at some things, great cardio, durable guy, quick hands, but like not super powerful, not super fast, not super explosive, just kind of fine. And a really good technical guy, like really good kickboxer, works a jab really nicely, throws good kicks, does all the things that you like would really love to see Kennedy. Like, it would be amazing to see Kennedy Njoku come out with Dustin Jacoby's level of like kickboxing acumen. That would be incredibly scary. It's a fight that not that long ago I would have picked Kennedy to absolutely just lose. Like, this is a guy who got outstruck by Nick Negamariano. Like, that's all I really have to say. But he does look like he's getting better. He does look like he's getting more comfortable. He's not as scared. He's picking up little tricks and little things that allow him to enter the pocket and into the clinch. He's still a little bit of an inside-outside guy. Like, he's either got to be outside, far away, striking, utilizing the fact that he has a 83-inch reach, 6'5", or he needs to be inside in the clinch. Like, he's still pretty uncomfortable as a pocket striker. But I don't see Jacoby being able to keep him there. Like, Jacoby is a guy who you can crash the clinch with. It's the one part of his game that I think has always been a limiting factor, as well as just like not having the absolute high-end athleticism, is the fact that if you want to clinch with him, he's kind of there. And part of that is athletic ability, because I just don't think he has very fast feet. But yeah, I see Kennedy winning the decision. I don't see him finishing Jacoby. Jacoby does not get finished very often, but we have seen Jacoby just kind of suffer through losing big moments of fights and losing stretches of fights where he just can't physically compete with a guy like Kennedy. So that is my pick. Njoku by decision. What is the betting odds? Kennedy is the favorite. All right, that's good to see. -150 to -166. And Jacoby is the +120 to +140 underdog. That's, you know what? That's honestly bettable both ways. Again, disclaimer, I really should just throw this in at the beginning of the card. Do not bet what you cannot lose. This is MMA. You will lose money. You will. If you go really weird and like crazy with it. Just stuff happens. Gavin Tucker versus Diego Lopes. This one's harder because my brain wants to pick Lopes. And spoiler, my brain is going to pick Lopes. But it's based off of a really, really good late notice replacement performance against Movsar Evloev. And that can bite you. That can bite you when a guy goes out there and he does way better than you're expecting him to do against a really, really good fighter, but it's a late notice fight. It's kind of like a lot of people are like putting a huge amount of stock in Basil Hafez for his fight with JDM, Jack Della Maddalena. And I'm just like, I don't know about that. And, well, I should say, my brain wants to say the same about Lopes. My heart wants to pick him. Although my heart also wants to pick Gavin Tucker. Dude's for the Canadian Maritimes. They have not had a big fighter since TJ Grant. They are huge fight fans. Honestly, if you've ever been out to the Maritimes, huge fight fans. And it would be awesome to see them get a guy to cheer for. So why am I not picking Tucker? Why am I, to a degree, not listening to my brain and not listening to my heart? Well, Tucker is old. He's 37 years old at featherweight. That's an old age. He's 5'6", so he's short. He's got that Alexander Volkanovski kind of build. Without having Volkanovski's supreme high-end athleticism and coaching. He is a solid base bones kickboxer. He's very, very comfortable at a range fight. Very comfortable. Boxing is crisp. Has some good takedowns. Pretty decent grappler too. He's explosive. He's got some good low kicks. And yeah, he's got the physical gifts. Like, he checks the boxes. However, he's also been inactive as a fighter. You know, his fights tend to be very far apart. He's never really been a full-time fighter due to my understanding. My understanding is he's been working the family business as well. And it's like, you know, cue the fighter pay rant that, like, if you were to pay these guys enough to actually be full-time fighters, they would probably be better. Just saying. Just saying. And I look at the fight he had with Billy Quarantillo, who we're going to talk about later because he's also on the card. But when Billy Quarantillo was able to, and keep in mind, Billy's a relatively foot-slow fighter and not a particularly good athlete, when he was able to make it messy, when he was able to get close enough to kind of bring chaos to Gavin Tucker, which is weird because Tucker's 5 foot. That's the other thing. He's 5'6" and he's not comfortable in like chaotic close range exchanges, which are almost always going to happen. He had a really hard time with it. It was just like, is the fact that Quarantillo, not terribly lethal fighter, not a terribly good athlete. Lopez has that athleticism and that chaos and that lethality. He hits hard. Yeah. So, you know, Lopez with like the extreme, insane grappling he brings to the table, plus the chaos, plus the aggression, plus the shoot-a-box style Muay Thai. That just feels like a recipe for a fight that Tucker can't control. And Tucker, it feels like, really does need to control a fight to win it. So I've got Lopez by TKO. Odds-wise, Lopez is the favorite, minus 170 to minus 188. Gavin Tucker is plus, what's the bottom end? 140 to plus 150. So, you know, again, bettable either way. It's a good fight. All right, now let's get to the first fight that I am actually going to crap on a little bit. I like Tanner Boser. I want to get that out of the way. I don't hate Alexa Kamer, but the combination is not good. I still don't know about this 205 cut for Boser. I just don't. He got steamrolled by Ion Cutelaba. Nuclear Kamer is not Cutelaba. But I have zero faith in it. Like, I know he knows what he is. He knows he's a, you know, decently fast-handed, decently good little combination kickboxer, reasonably durable, etc. Survived at heavyweight for a long time on that game. But not terribly powerful, not terribly strong, not a good wrestler particularly. He can be taken down. He is slow-footed, so he can kind of... He's slow-footed for 205. His foot speed at heavyweight was actually an advantage. But he does end up in trouble, like, you know, with no real ways to deny the clinch, to deny wrestling games, and so on. And I would absolutely pick Kamer against him if he knew what he was. Kamer is just a fighter who looks absolutely lost. Like, he's got good physical attributes. He's a pretty good athlete. He seems to hit pretty hard. He seems to be actually fairly durable. He's one of those few guys who, you know, seems to have like a legitimate like physical upside to him. And he's had a good gym, like, you know, strong style. Stipe Miocic's gym is good, but like losing to William Knight, losing to Nick Mariano, and just looking lost while doing it is not a good look. And his upside is still having beaten Justin Ledet. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of Justin Ledet in Tanner Boser. There is a lot of Justin Ledet, the boxer, in Tanner Boser. But I am going to go with Boser by decision. Maybe I'm being blinded by the heart, the patriotic duty here, but I just don't. If Kamer comes out and he looks like he's found himself and he's found the well of confidence and the thing of like, okay, this guy can't really hurt me badly, suddenly, and just steamrolls him, I am not going to be surprised. It's just that's not the Kamer we have become accustomed to. Where's the Kamer fight? Yeah, there we are. Boser is the favorite, minus 150 to minus 170. Kamer is the underdog, plus 120 to 135. I don't know. If I have a little bit of money left over, I might put some on Kamer. It's weird. It's a weird fight. It could be exceedingly ugly. um, Ignacio Bahamondes versus Ludovic Klein. Bahamondes, the thing that strikes out about him is obviously he's like 6'3", 75.5 inches at lightweight. Jesus Christ. Klein has got a pretty impressive reach on him too. 72 inches despite being only 5'7". And it's the height that kind of comes to play here. I rewatched the Klein versus Jai Herbert fight. If you want to see this, but that was a great example of that when Herbert was able to just keep range. Klein at 5'7" just didn't really have an answer, and Herbert's only 6'1" and doesn't have the reach that Bahamondes does. The problem in that fight was that Herbert would overthrow and end up in the clinch. Is the problem with every Herbert fight is that he ends up in the clinch, whether he wants to or not, because he's overthrowing all of his stuff. And it allowed Klein to keep things close because he's an okay clinch fighter, okay wrestler. But he's very, very inactive on top, so if he does get top position, it's not like he's going to finish Bahamondes. Bahamondes is actually pretty good at keeping range. He is pretty good at tapping it up. Now, granted, he did lose to John McDessie. And John McDessie is a similarly short lightweight to Ludovic Klein. I think he's like 5'7", 5'6", maybe 5'8", 5'8 tops. But he's also just way more creative. Klein is like very bare bones striking approach. Like it's not a lot of different looks. It's a lot of the same looks, the same pressure. And Bahamondes should just be able to, hit him with the long range punches, hit him with the occasional kick, reset to further range, keep away from him, abuse a 3.5-inch reach edge, do his thing, pop. He's the better athlete of the two. Because Klein is a fine athlete, but he's not nothing stands out about him. He's not super explosive. He's not super powerful. He's not super fast. He's not super strong. I don't know. It's just it's hard to get past Klein just being a guy who doesn't really have an up-close game. Like, he can wrestle, he can clinch fight, but, like, the best elements of his game are at his reach. And he's 3.5 inches of reach less and 6 inches shorter. Pardon me, 8 inches shorter. 8 inches shorter. It's hard to pick. Bahamondes by decision. I'm interested. What are the betting odds here? Bahamondes, okay, he is a sizable favorite. -220 to -245. Klein is, they have Ludovic Klein is his name. +175 to +190. Moving on down to Kyler Phillips and Raoni Barcelos. I would have picked Barcelos at a heartbeat a couple years ago when he was in his early 30s and was still kind of like, out there looking good. He hasn't looked good in a while. Even his win against Trevin Jones, it was dominant, but like some of the explosiveness and some of the elements to his game that excite you weren't there. Like, keep in mind, Trevin Jones lost to Cody Garbrandt in one of the worst bantamweight fights you're ever going to see recently. Like, that's just on Jones being a guy who relies on like just like a counter game, and it don't work. I'm taking Kyler Phillips just because he's the younger guy. He's 8 years younger. He's also an athletic guy. He's well-rounded. He can wrestle. He can hit hard. He's fast. He's explosive. He can grapple quite well. Has a good back take game. Has a good choke game. It shouldn't be like the Jones fight, for example, where Barcelos could just ground somebody and just, dominate them on top. Phillips doesn't really have that. He scrambles well. He's got defensive holes galore. Like, he's a poorly structured fighter, defensively speaking. But Barcelos, I don't think has that sudden violence to him anymore. Like, he still hits hard. He still has a power striking game. He still has a power wrestling game. He still has a power grappling game. He's still dangerous. But he's a guy who, it just feels like the UFC kind of wasted because story time for Raoni Barcelos. He came into the UFC as a fairly highly touted prospect. He came in off of the RFA scene where he beaten guys like Dan Moret. He had beaten guys like Ricky Musgrave, who's just like a good regional talent. Tyler Toner on that list as well. Gets to the UFC, comes in, knocks out Kurt Hallbaugh, rear naked chokes Chris Gutierrez, finishes Carlos Joaquin emphatically, beats Saeed Nurmagomedov, beats Khalid Taha by decision, and it's like, all right, it's time to go up. It's time to do some things. And in the meantime, he'd also been booked against like Cody Stamann as well. And then, he gets booked with Merab Dvalishvili. That falls apart. He gets booked with Rafael Sunkau. That falls apart. We're also in the middle of COVID at this point. He gets booked with Marcelo Rojo. That falls apart. He gets Timur Valuev. Loses a kind of funky decision. Gets booked with Trevin Jones and Victor Henry. They get canceled. Loses to Victor Henry. All the momentum's gone at that point. Beats Trevin Jones. Loses to Umar. It's just kind of like if we rewind the clock to 2020 when he's 32 years old, or hell, 2019. Do you go back to 18? Go back to after he beat Chris Gutierrez. He's 31 years old, and it's like, all right, this guy looks exciting. He's just finished two guys really well, and we give him Carlos Joaquin. And then like the Saeed Nurmagomedov fight proved to be like no elevation to his game. They just wasted him, and now I'm afraid he's just a little bit too old. Anyways, yeah, Phillips is my pick. Kind of a scramblier version of what Barcelos does. He is the favorite, minus 200 to minus 225. Barcelos is plus 163 to plus 175. I'm tempted to put a little money on him for nostalgia purposes, but it is what it is, I guess. Jeremiah Wells, Carlston Harris. Oh, God. Talk about two guys that are like simultaneously really, really impotent, but simultaneously really poorly built and 36 years old. I said Barcelos was old at 36. It doesn't change here. They're both facing a challenge that they've actually not really had to deal with before. Wells is a power striking, power grappler. He's kind of like a way rougher version of what I was describing Raoni Barcelos as, without like the nuance. Dude hits hard. He's persistent. He's explosive. He takes people down. He takes backs. He crushes necks. It's what he does. And somehow, he does it without gassing. Because dude is bricked up as all heck. Harris is pretty good athlete, pretty well-rounded, actually. Like, can wrestle, can strike, can grapple. He can do everything. But he has no way of really defining a fight. Like, he's a tall guy, 76-inch reach, 6 feet tall. He should be able to, like, just kind of hold Wells at range. But, like, he doesn't have the inherent fear of, like, exchanging in the pocket or the clinch that you kind of need to use that. Like, he's the kid who sticks his hand on the burning pan and is like, ow, and then does it again. That just feels like it feels like he won't avoid Wells's fight. And also, not for nothing, the only guy of particularly physical parity he's ever fought was Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, Shavkat is a much better fighter than Jeremiah Wells. I want to make that 100% clear. But that is the only time he was like given somebody who was like, all right, I can't just do whatever I want here. And he kind of got schooled. And if he does the same thing to Wells, it'll be an uglier schooling. It'll be a messy fight. It'll be a destructive derby. But it does feel like a fight where he ends up on the ground getting pounded out at some point. So I am going with Jeremiah Wells via TKO. But honestly, this could go either way. They're both defensively suspect fighters. They're both guys who I think are begging to get knocked out at some point. And you know what? And like I said, if either of them gets knocked out, I ain't going to be surprised. Wells is the favorite, minus 120 to minus 138. Harris is the plus 100 to plus 110 underdog. Yeah. Damon Jackson, Billy Quarantillo. I'm going to enjoy this fight. Like, these are two of my favorite fighters. Like, two guys who are not very athletic, and try really hard and scramble and try to do all the things right and try to be somewhat defensively responsible and like have good cardio and they go deep. They put you in deep water and they make you go. It's just Billy's better at it. Quarantillo is better at it. He's got the better cardio of the two. I think he's got the better striking of the two. Jackson is the more dangerous striker, asked Pat Sabatini, because he has like random dynamic moments. Like he's the guy who's like, I'm just gonna throw a flying knee in here, or like a big power lunging overhand or whatever. And Billy Quarantillo doesn't really do that. He's just he knows power is not his game. And he just kind of chips away at you, and wins by paper cuts and like weaponizing cardio and volume and being a good grappler and being a good scrambler. And, not being a particularly great wrestler because of physicality. And David Jackson is kind of the same in that regard. Good scrambler, good top control guy, but not particularly physical and therefore doesn't have particularly great takedowns. Like I see Jackson probably winning the first round, probably getting a takedown, probably getting some top control, banking some time up top, working some ground and pound after some fairly 50-50 striking. And then as the fight goes on, he gets tired. And Quarantillo takes over and does his thing. Outstrikes him, outgrapples him, outscrambles him, picks up a decision win. And that's the Billy Quarantillo way. Quarantillo is the minus 172 to minus 188 favorite. Jackson is the plus 145 to plus 150. That's a really tight line. Or range, I should say. Underdog. It's not that I can't see Jackson winning because I absolutely can. Like we have seen Quarantillo lose the style of fight that Jackson wants to have. It's just always to better fighters, like more athletic fighters, I should say. Not necessarily better because I respect David Jackson a ton, but better athletes. Jake Hadley versus Cody Durden. This is a late notice replacement fight, but Durden always strikes me as a guy who is ready at all times. I don't think it overly matters because like the similarities between Durden and Hadley's original opponent, Tajir Ilumbekov, kind of very similar fights. Kind of like the wrestle boxer mold. Guy who throws surprisingly decent boxing, good wrestling, good top control, good scrambler, etc. Hadley is on paper the better fighter as a grappler and a striker. He's got more credentials, I think. He's got the more dominant grappling displays. He's got the cleaner striker of the two because Durden is anything but clean as a striker. Oh God, he is. But this is an American style fight. It's a wrestle boxer fight, basically on both sides. That is the American thing. It's not the British thing. Hadley has not fought anyone really good at this style of fight. Like if we look at Hadley's career, I should say. He ripped it up in the UK. It's a great job. I'm looking forward to what he can do, but I kind of need to see more because comes to the UFC or comes to the States, beats Mitch Raposo, who is just not very good. Like he was undefeated at the time, but he's just not very good. The loss to Nascimento, fine. But beating Carlos Candelaro and the absolute dead corpse of Malcolm Gordon, who's pissing out parts of his liver, it just doesn't convince me. It's not going to surprise me if he comes out and just he could come out and just absolutely style and dirt, just be a way better boxer, way better kicker, and a guy. Oops, sorry, notification there. I just honestly watch him, and I look just silly, but he wants to fight the fight Durden wants to fight. And as a result, I have to go with Durden as the more proven commodity in that stylistic fight. So I've got Durden by decision. I'm actually really interested. Who is the underdog here? I'm really interested in what people are feeling here. Durden is the underdog. All right, so I'm picking a dog finally. There you go. Very small one, mind you. Plus 160, plus 165. Hadley is the minus 188 to minus 210 favorite. I will be blunt. I would not bet on Hadley at that line. Yeah, even I can absolutely see him winning, and I am prepared to look silly if he pantses Cody Durden. But I've got Durden. I'll probably be laying money on that. Okay, onwards to the two lesser interesting fights because it's a debut. Now, Sean Woodson versus Dennis Buzukja. As I said, the problem here is this is like Woodson's fourth different opponent. Buzukja is a Weidman Longo fighter. He's probably fine, but he doesn't seem to be amazing in any regard, in any real way. Like, he's a classic wrestle boxer. Things are fine. Things are good. Things are reasonably smooth. I'm looking forward to what he can do in the UFC. But he doesn't seem to be an A-plus athlete in any particular area. Like, there's no X factor. There's no super speed, no super power, no super explosivity to him. And Woodson is 6'2" at featherweight on a short camp. Like, how do you prepare to deal with that? Like, it's not that Woodson is particularly good. I really don't think he is. Like, I think the weight cut takes his chin away to a certain degree. I think that there is just he is definitely insulated by his reach as opposed to, like, you know, being particularly good at being a long fighter. But like, that's a 79-inch reach deal with you. This is an 8.5-inch reach difference. Like what are you supposed to do with this? On a full camp, maybe I would like to see what Buzukja can do. Like, he's got Ray Longo at his corner. Ray Longo's a fantastic coach, fantastic cornerman, and a fantastic insight for boxing, for MMA. But despite being like the crudest way possible, it's like we went through an age where, like, Greg Jackson and Firas Zahabi to a certain degree, and Matt Hume, like, they flowered it up. They made this like kind of like old school, like high intellectual coaching. And like, the truth is that Ray Longo's just been here, like, coaching top end fighters for like a long time with corner advice like punch a hole in his chest. But it works. It's surprisingly working. But I am going with Sean Woodson by decision just because he's a unique challenge. He is so tall, so long, and that's really it. We have odds on this one. All right. Minus 175 to minus 196 for Woodson. Buzukja is a plus 145 to plus 155 favorite. Notably, couple places don't have lines for this. No Betway, no PointsBet, no Caesars, no DraftKings. No DraftKings. Oh. That's weird. Hopefully that'll fix itself. Ode Osborne versus Ashu Almabayev. I am not sold on Almabayev. I watched some stuff. He seems like a bully grappler. He seems like a bully grappler who's used to bullying people who don't seem to be that athletic. Like, his best win is the ghost of Zach Makovsky. It's not that I think that people from the Eastern European flyweight scene are bad. I picked Azat Maxim, for example, to win his fight. But like, this guy feels a lot like Sergey Morozov, where like, he came in, and it's like, all right, this guy's a physical force, bully style grappler, and he's gonna do some cool stuff. And it's like, it never happened. I get that same vibe. Ode Osborne's a good athlete. He's fast. He's strong. He's fairly big for the division. He's got a coming together striking game. It's still a little bit more flash than I'd like, but it's like, dynamic. And the guys who beat him just don't really fight the way Almabayev does. So I'm going with Ode Osborne to kind of pick him apart to a decision. But like, at the same time, I hope to be wrong, because it's kind of the other key thing about the Morozov run has been that every time I'm like, I'm crossing my fingers to be wrong, because if they can do the exciting things, then it's better for the division. It gives us a face. Whereas like, Ode Osborne is just kind of like a stepping stone kind of guy. It's just I think he's just used to facing guys he can just blow out of the water physically, and I don't think that that's Osborne. Betting odds. Almabayev is again the favorite, minus 175 to minus 215. I will be betting on Osborne, who is as much as a plus 164 underdog, down to plus 150. So yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't really I can't I just can't really do that. I can't really buy in on this hype train. But I hope it leaves the station. I hope there's a reason for me to hop on later, like two stops down the line. That would be nice. All right, so thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Check down below. There is links to other places you can listen to the podcast. If there's like a podcast catcher of choice that you haven't checked me out on, it's on Spotify, Acast, and Anchor, as well as YouTube. And you will also find my social media stuff, links to my gaming stuff, as well as my Discord server where all of it comes together. We have the fight sim there. We talk about fights. We have a TeamSpeak server where you can get the information and come watch the fights with me and Byron and Javier and sometimes Devoid, sometimes Jake, and sometimes Jeff is there but not really watching the fights. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you not even next time. I will see you after the card.